Addictions that have effect on marriage. The addictions that have effect in marriage can be classified into two groups: substance addiction and process addiction. Prominently ranked among the various types of substance addiction is alcohol addiction. Drinking alcohol is not bad in itself, with the notable exemption of Islam or Christianity. It is permitted by most major world religions, but such permission and toleration come with a keyword: moderation. Among the three causes of alcohol addiction are genetic, while alcohol addiction is inherited from parent or grandparent. Excessive imbibing of alcohol up to a point where drinking ceases to become a choice, and lack of proper impulse control. The effect is battering and even the rape of spouses. Addiction brings the wrong kind of people into your children's lives, affect your ability to provide for them, makes you an absentee parent, or affect the way you treat them. Marriage do survive addiction when both people are committed to recovery and to the hard work of building intimacy once the addictive substance or behavior is no longer in the way. Other forms of addiction to drugs, sex, gambling, food, spending also wreak havoc for the same reason. Addiction destabilizes the foundation of marriage. Spouses of addicts often find themselves in a constant state of uncertainty. The unpredictability of partners' behavior, mood, and action can lead to emotional turmoil and make it challenging to maintain a stable family environment. Addiction tends to isolate both the substance user and their spouse. The shame, the secrecy, and the fear of judgment can lead couples to withdraw from social circles and family gatherings. This isolation can intensify feelings of loneliness and despair for both partners. Signs of an addicted partner are sudden and unexpected shift in your spouse's mood, habit, friend groups and interests, frequent lies, secretive, hides possession and whereabouts. There is a pattern of mysterious or unexplained financial losses, changes in appearance, unintentional weight loss or frequent illness, avoiding social events and withdrawals from friends and family. However, if addiction is indeed the root issue here, it's important to encourage your beloved to seek help by gently and non-confrontationally reminding them that their addiction impacts not only themselves but also their loved ones. This is Family Values, and like you heard, addiction comes in various forms. It could be even food, it could be drink, it could be substance, it could even be emotional addictions. But anyways, I'm not here to be the one to discuss about that. We have guests in the house, we have experts in the house, and I'll be introducing them. I'll start from my far right. We have Pastor Lawal Oluwatoyin. She's a marriage and a single coach. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, ma'am.
It's good to have you. You look fabulous. I love your hair.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm glad to be on the show. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for coming. And also we have Temitayo Abudu. He's an entrepreneur, a public speaker, and a writer. Welcome to the show.
All right, I'm so much delighted to be here. Thank you for the privilege.
It's good to have you here. And you're on yellow. Remind us, after the end of this program, we need to go to a photo booth to snap pictures. Just kidding. Okay, during the course of the program, we'll be having a Zoom guest out but joining us. But before that, let's get cracking. Now, we've heard the mini introduction whereby you say addiction comes in various forms. Now, I want to ask you, let me start with from you, Pastor. What are the main risks, or yes, what are the main risk factor of addiction? Because we all know what addiction is, when you're used to something and you're abusing it. So what are the main risks of addiction when it comes to marriage?
All right. You know, like was rightly said earlier, addiction is something that, you know, that someone cannot do without. And the word marriage talks about two people, basically, not looking at the children now, basically the husband, the wife. Prior to the children coming in, the woman, I mean, let me say the two parties, they've always had each other's attention, full attention. But when addiction sets in, definitely the party addicted to a particular substance or way of life will not be able to give as much attention. Let's take alcohol as an example. Definitely the addicted partner will take more pleasure
in the alcohol.
And definitely such interest, such pleasure would automatically deprive the spouse of his attention. It could also be maybe this social media thing,
Yeah.
which is
that is an
rampant
addiction a
these
lot of
days.
people don't even talk about.
As a matter of fact, you say the man so engrossed in his phone, it could be idle party though. I'm just using the man as an example.
Yeah.
So engrossed in his phone, the wife is seated and is as good as no one is there. So what risk? Definitely there'll be communication gap.
Yeah.
In the case of the communication gap, if care is not taken, there'll be a total breakdown in communication, and ideas would begin to filter in.
Yeah.
Ideas that would cause, the woman might fall into assumption. Aside from whatever is taking the man's time, it could lead to the woman assuming there's an alternative
Yeah.
out there. So there's a whole lot of risk is attached to addiction.
Oh wow, that is a very huge risk, and the part of sharing time, because even when you come to what we have now, sometimes you see spouses that go on a date. I've seen them a lot. You will see the husband is pressing phone, the wife too is pressing phone, and they are both smiling, but they are not smiling themselves. They are smiling at what they are doing. So it's in fact really that phone, aside from even social media, whatever they are doing with that phone itself is a very big distraction and an addiction. Now I want to ask Temidayo, how can one control or manage a spouse with addiction? When you know your spouse is addicted to, let's take it for example, social media, because a whole lot of people, when they get home, instead of them to relax, they still feed their eyes with the light and laugh till 12, and in their mind they'll be like, okay, after 5 minutes I'll drop my phone, but they are there for 5 hours still pressing their phone, ignoring their partner. So how can you handle a spouse with addiction? What's the best way to go about it?
All right, thank you very much. And the first thing to do is to show love. I think if we want to correct anything that is wrong, two wrongs cannot make
Make it right, yes.
So we must start from a perspective and give the partner an excuse. Peradventure, the person engaged in that addiction due to ignorance.
Okay.
Some peradventure due to peer pressure. So you
Okay.
needed to show love in the first instance, to let the person know that I'm ready to help you.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm not helping you because I want to judge you.
Yeah.
But I want to take you out of this problem in love. So the person will be willing to surrender. But when we begin to, force the change, the person will see you as someone who is oppressing him or her. So we must not oppress our partner. We must show love. And when we show love, it becomes a bit easier for us to start from there. And I would state that it's a gradual process. A Rome is not built in a day.
Yay.
So you need to give them time to heal as they grow towards change and
Changing.
becoming a better person.
Yes, I totally agree with that part of love to change your spouse, because, well, I would not say I've seen, but I've sometimes imagined that some people, why they cannot change their spouse, or they believe, no, he can't change, she can't change, is because they do it out of aggression, out of frustration. Why are you always picking up your phone every time we are talking? You understand why you're supposed to use them? You wanted to say something, yes?
And I think for such to be more effective, with the love should come communication.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, some of us, we bottle things up, and in bottling things, you begin to assume. You don't take the role of assumption. Now, for me, the way I look at things, I'm practical about life. If you want a change, you talk about it.
Right.
We are in this thing together. Oh, my sweetheart, I'm no longer enjoying this attention you're giving to the phone. You have a positive
Conversation.
Remember, you said something earlier, not coming from a place of condemnation,
Yeah.
like judging already.
Yeah.
And when the spouse discovers that she's not judging me, she's not condemning me, she only wants me to be a better person, give a better timing or more of my attention to this home. And I tell you, when the communication comes via the route of understanding, it achieves a lot.
Wow, that's very beautiful. And I hope a lot of people are learning, because I think most people tend to, because of how frustrated they are with their spouse addiction, they just come straight at you and give you the frustration, and the person's like, see, you don't come into my life and change my routine. This is what I've been doing. You saw it in my relationship before you came in, and you married me that way, so do not change me. So let's take it now to alcohol. Now, aside from alcohol too, what are those addictions that one notice, that one should be able to notice in relationship? There are sometimes, they always say something that before you get married, if you're seeing something like a red flag, that is like 5% or 10%, when you get married, you see double of what you're seeing. Now you will probably see your spouse, drinking at a normal level, and you find out that when you get married, whenever he's frustrated, he's tired, he's thinking too much, it results to alcohol. Now, that one being said, what are those little things that one will see, not red flag now, but an addiction that obviously can be changed? What are those little things that are more of an addiction that if that person continues that way into marriage, it's going to be a very, very big problem for the person to handle? Pastor, what addictions do you think
Quite
there are?
a lot, I would say.
Please mention.
From the experience I've had,
Yes.
like in the ministry, being in a position to counsel people. Let me use the man and the woman now on both sides.
Yes.
On the part of man, there's some young men that cannot do their mommy's voice. Whatever's going to happen, any decision they're taking tomorrow, mommy must hear. And not just mommy hearing, if mommy does not give her consent, it doesn't work.
Whoa.
As a man ready, willing to go into partnership called marriage, the mommy must hear, must lie down. The minute you're going into a marriage, every woman has a tendency to be jealous.
Right.
Even if you take your mother-in-law as she's now my mom, a point will come when you discover that the man is tends more towards it's a natural
Are you
instinct
kidding me?
thing.
Even your own mom?
It's a natural instinct thing. Even if it's the lady's mom. Yes. If the guy takes the lady's mom's
To be
advice,
yes.
to more than it, the woman would at a point like, come, is she your
Abhishek
mother?
marry her.
So it's a natural thing.
Yes.
The Bible says that two will come together, they will become one. In becoming one, there should be no higher authority elsewhere. The same thing goes to the lady. There are some ladies, they can't do nothing without their parents, The minute you're going into marriage, the narrative must change. You must have the mindset that I'm going to marry with somebody and the person's opinion matters more. Of course, like for me, as an example, whatever I'm discussing with my mom would have been my husband's consent.
Yeah.
Because we have an agreement. Nothing goes with him beyond the shores of my home. So if there needs to be a third party opinion, it will be on an agreed consent. Like, okay, can we seek grandma's opinion? Can we seek your mom's opinion? So whenever he gets to hear that, probably someone, he would have known that, of course we discussed it. But some of our youth these days, mommy's boys, mommy's girls, it's a form of addiction. And unconsciously, you're bringing rivalry into your home. Unconsciously. And, if it's not addressed, by the time you begin, maybe the spouse that's feeling the heat begins to complain. Then the other party like, come, I've known him, I've known her all my life before he came on board. And if it's not nipped in the bud, man,
it will be a problem.
It could take another turn entirely.
Wow, that's very deep. Do you have another factor that
one of those things, or some of this addiction, we have gambling. And another thing that is so powerful that most of the female gender doesn't take cognizance of is untamed tongue. Some have bad mouths. Sincerely.
The ladies, right?
Yes. Sometimes they don't say anything good in what the partner is doing. And some unconsciously, it becomes a way of life to them. It becomes their habit. So they grow up in that spirit. So whatever you do to them, they don't even appreciate. They only see the negative aspect of it. And because of that, your partner will be discouraged to further give you any opportunity or to do something good for you. So we need to be very conscious of that. And when it comes to gambling, gambling is affecting most of us, the youths. We see gambling as a second partner.
It's second business, an investment.
For those who engage in it, I don't engage in it. And you see them, there's so much focus, some even in church, they on Niger bet. Just losing focus. Instead of concentrating on God, they are focused on that. Why they should have good time with your family, they're on the phone.
Trying to.
So all these will certainly affect the marriage. You understand? And according to Couples Counseling Center in Chicago, it was discovered that addiction is the 7 most common reasons why
get
divorce
divorced.
happens in marriage.
Wow.
Sincerely. So this is a very wonderful topic that we need to keep talking about so that we can save our marriage. Sincerely.
Beautiful. That gambling part is very important. And there was a time like that I was in a certain relationship. I never knew it was gambling. You won't even believe such a person was gambling. It took the younger brother, in fact the last born, not the younger brother, to come meet me and like, ma, I like you so much, but I need to tell you one thing that my brother has a problem with, and that's the only problem. He gambles.
That you can never retain your capital.
At all. So he cannot save, we cannot build,
yeah.
and I was not ready for that stress of changing the addiction. I was not just ready. And like for the brother to meet me, that means it's deep. It means he have squandered a lot of their money, probably house rent or something.
And probably even within the family, maybe they've been trying to correct it.
Yes, and it wasn't working. In fact, at a point, parents too also have a role to play. This because the parents did not tell me anything, and when I confronted her, she was like, what's there? You can control it.
Really?
You don't just put your account together. Like, really? So I just knew it was a no for me. You know, so it's very important that we have to actually put gambling into consideration. And like you said, what was the other one?
Bad mouthing.
Ladies. Somehow I feel like it's just inborn. Like we are just good. I feel like ladies, if they don't like you, if they wash you, if they speak to you.
But may I come in at this
Yes,
point? When
please.
it comes to the bad mouth, I think parents, we have a lot to do.
Yes.
The lady that grows up into someone that talks anyhow did not just get there.
Started, yes.
It must have started and as a mother especially, you know, men might not really pay attention to several things. They take things at face value, you know. There's some things you scold the child for and the mom will be like, eh. But you as a mother, when the child begins to develop such traits, you should begin to cut them. Let the child know, girl, ladies don't talk like this.
You're right.
You someday end up being a mother somewhere. You someday end up being someone's wife.
Yeah.
Is this a, you know? So once we begin to see such traces in the children, you nip it in the bud. And when the consciousness is there, you know, it helps our young ladies. At times a young lady goes out there, the friends are talking anyhow, she's able to tell them, no, as a lady you don't talk like that. Why? Because she's been trained from home. So all these things also emanates from the grassroots, from homes. Like the case of the young man you just mentioned, the mother knew it. But she did nothing about it.
Said nothing about it.
I'm sure if she had paid more attention at the time the young man started, it wouldn't have gotten to that level.
Extent.
So we also as parents, not just about saving our homes alone, we watch our children because they also grow up to become someone's spouse sometimes.
Very, very true.
Right.
Very, very true. Which is something we really, really need to work on. There are a lot of addictions and I'm very sure we can't even take all of them. There are even some that we ignore that we do not even realize they are even addictions. But you know, just like some person, will you call this one an addiction? You are trying to dress up, you and your spouse are going out, you're trying to dress up. But every time, especially ladies, every time you're going out and you're trying to dress up, you must use at least 1 hour. Even if they wake you up, okay, let's assume the outing is for 8 and they wake you up 5. You will not be ready by 8. Would you call that an addiction, Pastor?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
You know, it could be an addiction and it might not be. Some people, they are not good time managers.
Okay.
Some people are bad at time management.
Yeah.
You know, like I have a daughter. If you have an 8 o'clock outing, wake her at 4. You wake at 6. You'll be ready before her. She wasn't doing anything. Going from the bathroom, coming to our room. You know, what would take you like 2-3 minutes to pick and you're out. She's taking her time, you know. For someone like that, she's not addicted to anything, but she's just a bad time manager. When she got into school, no one needed to tell her. In university, you have 7 o'clock class. So she became better, you know. So at the point when she started coming home, I'm like, you wake up so early these days. When I say we're going out, mommy, I'm ready. And I'm like, wow. She became better when it comes to time management. So, but some women, they are addicted to makeup. So that was why I said it might not entirely be an addiction when it comes to, you know, delaying other people. So it could be as a result of poor time management, and it could be an addiction on the other part. Some people would want to paint their whole faces say, until they achieve the tone they want.
Yes,
they are right
it has to be perfect.
You know, so for such people, someone like me, if I really don't, I might not remember that I've not even used the powder.
And you just leave.
I just leave.
Yeah.
But some people dare not. You don't see their natural skin.
Even if they are going to the market, you some people with makeup.
I tell you, because they are addicted to it, and they must get it done because they believe without all those they are not good here.
Yeah.
So some people are addicted to it.
To it like
So,
that.
so the spouse needs to identify exactly what the problem is when it comes to going out. Is it that you're a poor-time manager, or you are just addicted to makeup and stuff like that?
All right.
Anyway, this is beautiful. I'm loving this. Okay, I want to ask Temi, do you what actually causes this addiction? We have different types of addiction. You mentioned a whole lot. You're talking about gambling. We talked about social media. That's the phone. We talked about alcohol. We talked about a whole lot. Now, this addiction, what actually prompts people to get addicted to it rather?
All right. Well, one of the major things that causes this addiction is people trying to be like someone else. All right, my friend is doing this and I want to be like
the person.
Okay, some of us, we have the privilege to stay in the ghetto growing up, so you see a lot of character. But thank God to what Pastor just said, the parental factor, very important. You know, our mothers have a way of, you know, talking into our senses that, okay, this is not right and you must not do it. So for you not to follow the bad, you know, eggs, if you follow them, you become part of them. All right, so that is number one factor. Number two is lack of love from the parents. When you don't find the love you need at home, they tend to go outside and they get it in the wrong way. You won't believe that these guys, these people that engage in this addiction, for instance, alcohol, they don't see themselves as enemy. They fight now, in the next 5 minutes they are done.
They even buy themselves.
You know, they are always happy having themselves together, you know. But the major thing is that they are showing love, but in the wrong dimension. And because one of my mentors, my pastor, have the saying that if you do the wrong thing at the right time, you're wrong. All right? If you do the right thing at the wrong time, you're still wrong. So showing love in a negative dimension. So we need, as parents, to show love to our children, and if we have members of our families, please do not look down on any of them. Because sometimes when you're lonely, you do a lot of things that you're not meant to do. So loneliness kills faster than any other disease. So it's for them to be able to come out of this loneliness, they needed to do some things to just engage themselves. So we need to come and, you know, just look at these problems and look for a way out.
It's just like some persons, actually, mostly most persons that, you know, alcoholic, let me use that word, when you try to ask them what exactly drives you to alcohol, like, it's not dating too much. I mean, like, but when you finish taking this and you're high and you laugh, you know, you're hippie, after, when the thing wears off, you're back to square one, even in fact worse. Because let's assume you drank and you fell into a gutter, you injured yourself, you broke some things, you've added more problems to yourself. You'll be able to walk that street again with your head high. So it's a lot of things, and sometimes they don't even care because they just believe once this thing comes out of me and I'm laughing, I'm playing, I don't mind even if it lasts for a few hours, but at least I'm sane for some time. Which brings us to food. A lot of people feel that food sometimes can be an addiction. And do you actually think food addiction affects marriage, Pastor?
Yes, in a way it does.
Really? How?
Because, you know, some women, it happens more with the female gender. And it still comes from the fact that you're not finding fulfillment in the home. Some people, some ladies, because they feel like maybe they are not well loved enough, just buttressing what my brother's been saying, you know, rather than being confrontational, they take pleasure in eating. Some people, they take pleasure not even in eating proper meals, maybe sweets, ice cream, you know, or junk food. Not even proper meals, junk food. And you know, when they feel like they're tired, the whole world seems to be coming down on their shoulders, they go for a bowl of ice cream. That's they're addicted to it. So rather than carrying the burden on them, they just simply go for a bowl of ice cream. And at the end of the day, they become bloated. And you know, it has adverse effect. the man now begins to sing like, come, I married a beautiful, slim.
What happened to that?
What happened? So instead of the problem being solved, it leads to another. Initially, the man might have been away from you, maybe because of, let me assume, the way you talk. And you feel like rather than being corrected, he's far away from you. The next thing, you become addicted to junk meals. And rather than, definitely, you know, junk food does not do good. It has adverse effects. So the man begins to say, what's the problem? She's not talking, she's this, and she now looks so big.
Yeah.
So it drives him farther
away from you. Wow.
So the truth is this. In all we're saying, be it food, be it drugs, whatever, there is no way you can find fulfillment in addiction. Just like you rightly said earlier, the person that got drunk, within a space of probably 30 minutes, an hour or two, the effect of the alcohol clears off. He finds himself in a dirty gutter. He looks, you know, it's so embarrassing. He can't walk with his head high. At the end of the day, what does the problem is still waiting?
It's still there.
It doesn't take it away
At all.
It's still there. So there must always, rather than allowing yourself go into depression, becoming addicted to a way of life that will not solve your problem, there would always be another way, a better way out. So addiction does not end well. It doesn't add value
at all
in any way.
It's abstract.
It diminishes who you are.
Wow. Every form of addiction, actually. Every form. Yes, we have a Zoom guest joining us, and that is Dr. Abraham Owoseni. He's a life and leadership coach, an author, and also an educational leader, live from Lagos. Hi, Dr. Abraham.
And everyone.
Good morning. It's good to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Okay, we have two guests in the house just like you. We have Temitayo Abujo and we have Pastor Lawal also joining us. But we've been talking about addiction, and I know you've been following us through. So my first question to you is there anything like emotional addiction? And if there is, can you explain what it means actually?
Okay, so thank you so much, because I've actually been following through as well. Thank you, Pastor Lawal, as well. Okay, so this has actually been a very rich engagement, even since we started. And I would just like to also share one or two thoughts as I respond to the question you asked on if there was emotional addiction, right? Now, I like to always see marriages and relationships like buildings, right? You know, I know when people celebrate their anniversaries, that excitement is always there, and people are saying, "Oh, congratulations, right?" You know, however, you know, celebrating a milestone in a relationship is beyond the congratulations. It's the fact that two people, right, committed themselves together to build a home, to build a relationship. And so I liken it to a building. So the first year of the anniversary is like the first floor. The 5th year of the anniversary is like the 5th floor. The 25th year of the anniversary is like the 25th floor. And then they are building. Now, where does addition come in? So the materials that make a building to stand must be quality, must be genuine, must be original, right? Any counterfeit material will likely bring a collapse. And so when we see that homes are breaking or we see cracks in a relationship, it points us back to something that could have, infiltrated in the building of the home. And this is where I see that our conversation is actually very needed on. And so sometimes I even like to use the word habit as against addiction. Habit seems to capture it a lot much more broader way. You know, because when you say addiction, some people just immediately zero out that, oh, I'm not addicted. But when you say habit, everybody knows that I have both good and both bad habits. Now, emotional addiction is one of those habits in the framework, like I would like to call it. Again, I think there was a question you were asking about the cost of, addictions, and I'll just also wrap my thoughts around that. Now, if we see addictions as habits and their compulsive behaviors that sometimes somebody does, and he does not even know that he has done it, then that actually means it's an habit that has been ingrained. So the first time the person does it, the second time, the 5th time, it became repetitive without the cognitive control of the person. Now, when we look at a home, there are a major touch points to a family, a relationship. and emotional is one of them. So there is the spiritual atmosphere and moral climate of a family, of a home. There's the health and the wellness of the members of the family. Now, the third one is now what you asked about, the fact that there is the emotional well-being. And so we see relationships today with a lot of strain in their emotional well-being because there have been negative habits that have developed over time. I'll give an example. One of them is the fact that there's poor communication. So if as a spouse I have poor communication, it's going to affect the emotional well-being of my relationship. And I heard Pastor Lawal and Timmy share strikingly of this, especially with technological addiction, which is a major one affecting this sphere. But there's another part of emotional addiction that, most times it's not commonly talked about. This talks about lack of time and attention. Lack of time and attention, right? I remember many years back, 3 years back, I was in this, school. I was just mentoring the young people in the senior school. When I was done with my session, a girl walks to me and says, and she was actually crying and sobbing. And, I tried to comfort her to know, why are you crying? And she tells me a story that was very touching. She shares with me that, every single morning, my dad beats me because I'm not doing well in maths at school. And then, out of compassion, I said, okay, so what about your mom? Because if dad is beating you, okay, what about mom? She said, mom is out of the country. And so you find out that this is a young girl in school, but then the habit of the spouses of not having quality time has also affected the child. And she's already also feeling the emotional baggage as transferred to her. So every member of the family is influenced by any habit, good or bad, that either of the spouses develop, and it's a concern and a big burden. So those are two primary values or habits that affect the emotional well-being I quickly like to talk about.
One question I would like to ask again is addiction actually a form of abuse to your spouse when it comes to marriage? Is it like an abuse when you have an addiction and of course it's affecting your spouse? Do you think it's another form of abuse?
Okay, thank you, Blossom, for that. So every one of us, we have habits. Abuse is sort of an abnormal use or when something becomes having a negative impact, right? Which is what bad habits do, addictions do, right? So every single one of us, we have good bad habits and we have not so good habits. Now, the victory or the awareness, like we call it, where it starts from is when, as a person, I begin to come to the consciousness of what are the habits I, eventually do or that I get to do as often that is not good. And every one of us will have a blind spot. So as a person, I may not know the things that have become abusive for me. I may not know the things if I yell at my spouse. I may not know as categorical as I may know enough. It might take that open communication, that dialogue, and that self-awareness where I come to a point whereby, as couple, you can say, quarterly or, bi-monthly, you want to sit down to rate or do a checkup of our relationship. How have we fared? And then in that, in that open conversation with no holds barred, without any judgment, I begin to find out that maybe my spouse brings out and tells me that this is an area that has been of a negative influence in our relationship. And then that is where the journey of freedom comes, or the journey of getting to be better. So every one person has that not so good habits we are trying to be better in, right? There's no perfect person, right? And so I believe strongly that it's about that open dialogue. It's about that intentionality to say, I want to consciously bring about restraint. I'll give an example. So when we talk about physical wellness, I think I had Pastor Lawal sharing about that, or the kind of diet the family eats and all that. So one major part of habits that affects relationships is stress. Now stress is not totally induced as a person. It could be contextual, maybe based on the kind of work the person does and all that. So you find out that as simple as stress is, a couple is already affecting maybe the sex life of a couple, right? It's affecting their medical wholeness and their physical strength and wellness, and so. But until a choice, until one thing about building is that building has to be intentional. Both two parties of the relationship come to say, okay, let's see, fine, this is what we do. We come in late at this time. Okay, we set out this time. How can we ensure we have adequate rest? How can we balance our schedule to see that we still have enough adequate sex? How do we ensure that there's no loophole in our relationship? It comes from that place of intentionality that, hey, I want to make this work, and so that it doesn't get to a place of abuse whereby I'm now trying to do protection when I had an opportunity to do prevention. Prevention is the better guide that helps relationship. When a building collapses, it's collapsed already. I wrote a book, and my inspiration for that book was, I call it Fellows in a Ship. And now two people, a man and a woman, are in a relationship. Now, if those two people are not very conscious of how they are building the home, the ship may get to be may lead to a shipwreck. The relationship, which is the ship, can get to a point where is now remedial. We're not trying to see what can we do. But then the building has collapsed, but then the cracks are evident. And so two people in the relationship, and for most people, especially when the children get to a point of accountability, they are also part of the building, whereby they see mommy and daddy, they see the husband and wife, and they are modeling the values, the habits from them. As simple as it is, UNICEF calls this habit or value life skill education. So I saw my daddy so hardworking in his business, in his work, and that was an habit I picked without him telling me to go read my book or be hardworking. It taught me how to iron my clothes as a pre-teenager. It taught me how to dress properly, how to knot a tie, how to put on a good clothes. These are habits that, even though you don't have enough time as a parent to teach or warning your children, because you are living it, they are drawing it from you. So we are not waiting to a point when it gets to a point of abuse, but we are salvaging it ahead of time.
Dr. Abraham, for that one. That was very, very impressive. Now, away from addiction and all of that, I want to ask you, Pastor, how can one actually handle anger when it comes to couple? Because this was asked by a viewer that was on I was recently, and because of time we could not answer that question. So a viewer is asking, when you're a couple and there's anger issues, as a couple, how best can you manage it or handle yourself? Very quickly, because of our time.
Okay, I'll just use myself as a case study. I'm a kind of person, I get angry very easily, very easily. Or let me say I used to. It comes from a place of reality. When you know there's a problem, you seek for a solution. My husband is very reserved. He barely talks. Till you push him, he's very quiet. And when issues happen, I flare up. And I could just go to the bedroom, lie down, and I'm so angry that he's not responding. At the point I had to sit myself down. Come, what exactly do you want? I had to talk to myself. What exactly do you want? You're the one that will get angry. You are the one that's angry that your anger is not being responded to. So I think it comes to a place of self-realization. When you realize that a particular trait is not helping you, and when I'm angry, I shake, and it gets me in maybe about 10-15 minutes thereafter. I look, I'm like, come, why were you even angry? So you as a person, you as a spouse that gets angry, you need to come to a place of self-realization. Realize the fact that your anger does nothing. It only has issues. Because if you're angry at a particular issue, I've learned over time, by the grace of God, I'm almost 20 years in marriage. I've learned anger does not resolve issues. Rather, communication does. At times, the thing that actually got me angry, at the time I walk up to my husband, I'm like, "There, why did you?" In fact, he might not even have reasoned along that. And I begin to look at myself like, "You're just angry for nothing." So the party that gets angry in a marriage needs to come to the realization. And if that party is not coming to that realization, the other party can help. Sit that person down when he or she is not angry. Talk about it. I don't want you to get angry with me. When things are not okay, talk to me about it. Work it out intentionally. Anger does not resolve issues. As a matter of fact, it compounds it.
Right.
Then one major thing, ask for the help of the Holy Spirit. Remember I said I used to be. Now there is barely anything you can do. I walk away. Because the Holy Spirit really helped me.
Yeah.
For those of us that have that encounter with Him, it really does help me. When issues are coming, no matter how terrible it comes, I just look at it as a face value. It doesn't get me worked up the way it used to
We
be.
get angry.
So when I look at it, the Holy Spirit takes control and it's sorted out. So for any family, any home, any relationship experiencing anger issues, I tell you, it can easily be resolved. The party realize the fact that it doesn't work it out. If the other party needs to help you sit the angry party down, talk about it. Talk about it. Don't write the person off. Talk about it. And you that get angry easily, be intentional about resolving such. And I tell you, you really go a long way getting it solved out.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really love that input. And there is something that you mentioned which is very key. When that party, you want to talk to that person, make sure the person is not angry. The person is not still angry. It's not when the heat of the moment and you now call the person, okay, I want to talk to you. There's nothing good that will come out.
That's where the wisdom comes in.
Yes.
At times, issues are more resolved when you talk, the other party is calm.
Yes.
You listen.
Yes.
But when you want to pick it, I think that's the problem we have in major homes these days. One party is angry. At times, when you go to social media, this one will talk.
This one will talk.
respond. Everything becomes
They call it
wishy-washy. Seriously.
Anyway, at this point, we'll say thank you very much. Thank you, Pastor Lawal, for actually joining